Coming up on the Blerd Breakdown, Miles Morales is rumored to lead the live-action Sony Spider-Verse reboot. Is Jonathan Majors returning to Kang and the MCU? We've got Black Panther 3 updates, both what genre will be used for the movie and what Denzel Washington's role might be. We've got a new Diddy or Didn't He with 3 separate lawsuits, 2 more male accusers and 2 female accusers. And the NFL and Fox are going to decide if Kendrick Lamar can perform Not Like Us during the Super Bowl halftime show. All that and more going down on the Blerd Breakdown right now. What's good, everybody? I'm Winston Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, the pop culture show for when you need to know, see what had happened was. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, man. Hit the notification bell so you know when new stuff is popping off. And as you're enjoying the video, man, please be sure to throw a like on it. It means the world to help out with the algorithm. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody. We had just recently crossed 4,200, man. We're at 4,210. That is so freaking amazing. We're on our drive to 5, man, to get to 5,000 subscribers. So I appreciate y'all so much for that. Got a lot of good stories, as you saw, that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. I just wanted to run some things by you super quickly. The first and foremost, as you know, that should be altered. Let me alter that really quickly. But we will be, the move is officially next Wednesday. So I will not have a Blerd Breakdown for you next Wednesday. If I can get a pre-recorded one set, I will. But obviously you can see the packing is getting, more and more ridiculous as we go. Other than that, man, I've got a lot of pre-tape stuff that should be dropping over the next couple of days as well. You should see me over on Capes and Cows on Friday, and I should be back the following Friday as well. It should be up and going by Thursday afternoon, hopefully. And other than that, tonight I will be streaming Marvel Rivals. I've got a doctor's appointment, a telehealth appointment after this stream. And then after that, I will be back to stream some Rivals tonight. So if anybody wants to come and hang out, that's going to be at twitch.tv/theswaggyblerd. So don't miss any of that. But with that, man, let's jump into our first story. And it might be that my boy is finally getting his live action debut. That is not the story. All right, there we go. Let's try that again. So the rumor has it that Miles Morales is apparently going to be the lead for Sony's live-action Spider-Verse reboot. Super excited. Volume's low. Is it still low? Can you still not hear me? Just want to make sure that is working properly. That's crazy that it's you guys. What the hell? All right, hold on. That's really annoying. Let's see if I can make a change on that. Why the fuck? What the fuck? People with the logo on my hats. I pay good money for that. That's hilarious. All right, hold on 1 second. It looks like I'm going through the same stuff. All right, I'm going to try power cycling my Rodecaster. Give me a second. So, okay, what about now? Is that better? That looks like that is hella loud. Okay, all right. That probably is working now. Is that better? And then quad face. What is quad face? That's hilarious. No. If it's not you, it's probably someone else. Oh, quad face is the person. Never mind. I see it. But yeah, no, that's hilarious. That should fix it now, hopefully. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I hear myself louder in here too. So maybe that power cycling did it. Anyway, let's get to the story. But louder. Okay, hella good. I'll turn it down some. That should help. Great. All right, so the rumor is that Miles Morales is set to lead the new Sony live-action reboot. This is Josh Wilding at Comic Book Movie. When Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios parted ways after Spider-Man Far From Home, Sony executives immediately started making plans to continue the franchise without Kevin Feige's input. We'll likely never know what would have been entailed. However, once both sides managed to get back on good terms, the wall crawler found himself caught up in the multiverse with 2021 Spider-Man No Way Home. That led to the return of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as their respective Peter Parker variants, not to mention some familiar villains. Sony tried to get in on the multiversal action with Morbius. However, after cutting several confusing nods to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man franchise, the studio settled for one of the worst post-credit scenes ever, which saw the living vampire meet the Vulture. The idea of Venom fighting Spider-Man was teased but never followed up on, and Sony has now given up on its slate of Marvel spin-offs. Instead, the studio will focus on Spider-Man 4, the long-delayed Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and Amazon and MGM's Spider-Noir TV series. Beyond that, well, it sounds like Sony's Marvel Universe will get its own Spider-Man post-Avengers Secret Wars. Talking about Miles Morales not being a part of the MCU's Champions in a recent Q&A, the Cosmic Circus Alex Perez said, the reason why is Miles, according to the information I currently have, so please take this with a grain of salt, is going to be set in a rebooted Sony universe that's set to be established after Secret Wars. This raises a lot of questions. Chief among them is whether Marvel Studios will have any creative involvement or whether Sony is looking to piggyback on what many expect to be a soft reboot for the MCU after Secret Wars. While many fans would have liked to see Miles on the Sacred Timeline, there's something to be said for establishing him in a separate universe and building to a crossover similar to the hugely popular Spider-Man comic book event. Or Spider-Man, excuse me. In recent interviews, Tom Holland has been careful not to give too much away about Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures Spider-Man 4 plans. He has, of course... I didn't ask you to do that, Siri. Be quiet. Shut the hell up. All right. Damn. Okay. In recent interviews, Tom Holland has been careful not to give too much away about Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures Spider-Man 4 plans. He has, of course, repeatedly expressed interest in bringing Miles Morales into the MCU. If I would be lucky enough to somehow bring Miles Morales into my Spider-Man universe and into the MCU, I'd love to do for a young kid what Robert Downey Jr. did for me, the actor tease, hinting at a possible future team-up. All right, let's talk about it. So, I love the idea. Like, I have been waiting patiently for Miles to be brought into this whole thing. So if that's happening, I'm fucking here for it, man. Absolutely. Now someone's asking, can they still call him Spider-Man? Absolutely. So that's one of the things. Spider-Man and Captain America, for those that aren't super familiar with how it's handled in the comics, there is a point, obviously, in which Cap dies or loses his serum, and he passes the mantle off to either Falcon or to Bucky, to the Winter Soldier, and he does come back, and then you essentially have, because Sam's secret identity is not a secret. He is Sam Wilson Captain America. There is, either Bucky Barnes Captain America or Winter Soldier Captain America, and then there's Steve Rogers Captain America, and they kind of differentiate. And the Spider-Men are just called Spider-Man, hey, Spider-Man. It's funny, you'll see moments where like, oh, the one in the black suit, the one in the red, white, and blue, or the red and blue, etc. They'll just kind of point at who they're directing it to, but they're both referred to as Spider-Man. So yes, that can totally happen. I think that this is great. I would love personally for Miles to be in the MCU. I really am in a space where I don't necessarily trust solo Sony live action Spider-Man stuff anymore. I think more of that is based off the fact that you went with properties and characters that people aren't really that pressed about one way or the other. But I do think that, if you're going to bring Miles in, then I'm good with whatever you do. I just do it well. That is my only request, is to make sure that you bring the fire with it, because that would worry me. That would genuinely worry me if they don't get this right. But I say all that to say, again, if we're kind of going at a fresh situation and you're treating it the way you treated Toby when he was in, or you treat it the way that when Andrew was in, I personally think that, 4 of those 5 movies, call it 3 of those 5 movies, were actually pretty damn good. And obviously they had some input in what's been going on with Tom and everything. So I think they can do it. I just think that you really weren't setting yourself up for success trying to go villains only type situation. But with all that, I'm very curious what you think. Do you think bringing Miles Morales into the live action will work? And if so, are you excited about it? Do you want to see him in the MCU? Are you cool with him being in the Sonyverse? You let me know. All right, let's go on to our next story, which actually might see the return of Kang. Is Jonathan Majors returning to Kang the Conqueror and the MCU? This is what Josh Wilding was writing about for Comic Book Movie. Is there a chance Marvel Studios will ask Jonathan Majors to return to the MCU as Kang the Conqueror now that the actor is attempting to mount a comeback? Last year, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Loki star was found guilty of 2 misdemeanor counts of harassment and assault, as well as not guilty on 2 additional charges of intentional assault in the 3rd degree and aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree against then-girlfriend Grace Jabari. Though some industry insiders believe that the judge might decide to give Majors a taste of jail, he managed to escape with 1 year of domestic violence counseling, which he has now served. Jabari also dismissed the federal lawsuit against him last November. Marvel decided to pivot away from Kang after Majors was sentenced and announced that Robert Downey Jr. would play Dr. Doom in the Avengers movies that were originally supposed to be known as the Kang Dynasty. And I don't remember what the other one was called. They didn't have that listed here. Even so, one would assume that there must still be some loose threads to tie up when it comes to the villain. According to a recent rumor from Screen Geek, Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige is considering bringing Jonathan Majors back into the MCU. The idea is for Majors to appear in a future Marvel project to wrap up some loose ends with Kang and close the character's story. However, TMZ has now weighed in, claiming to have debunked the above report. Multiple sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ that Jonathan has not engaged in any talks to return to the MCU after he was booted in 2023 following a guilty verdict in his criminal trial. TMZ is not exactly known for their ethical reporting practices, but they do have credible sources and have broken a few news stories themselves over the years. We would take their word over Screen Geek, sorry guys, but we also have the following from My Time to Shine Hello, who seems to believe there might be something to the rumor. Then there's this from the Cosmic Circus's Alex Perez, who says, I see what that was there. Give me a second. Those are apparently tweets, images. I just grabbed the thing. Let's see. So My Time to Shine Hello says, the report stated that they are considering it, not that he's currently in talks. The headline is misleading, and this isn't a real debunk, just clickbait. And then Alex P. was asked, hey, do you know if there's any truth to this? And Alex P. from Cosmic Circus says, absolutely not. Okay, so other than that, honestly, we say the studio bringing Majors back into the fold is a long shot, especially now that the original plans have changed so much as we head towards Doomsday. Anything is possible, of course, but there would still be a significant degree of controversy associated with rebuilding a relationship with the actor, and we don't see Marvel, or more specifically Disney, taking that chance. All right. Look, I said this a couple times. I think based off of what the crime was, the time that was sentence being served, if Jonathan truly stays out of trouble and everything else like that, and knowing that most of what he was essentially charged for was an accidental situation and not like him actively doing anything, then give him time. Let the heat cool off, and then, yeah, by all means, if he wants to make a comeback, whether it be with this character or others and whatnot, then he should be entitled to try and do that. And now a lot of people, I've talked about this multiple times, people were, out here in these streets, well, why is it that Robert Downey Jr. got a second chance and, Jonathan Majors didn't? First of all, you need to look at the time frame at which that happened. Robert Downey Jr. went through all of his stuff. Nobody would insure him or put him on a single job. He had to take years off, go through rehab, get his life together, and make a full turnaround. And then it was a begging and a minimal contract for him to play Tony Stark / Iron Man, and Jon Favreau being like, no, this is the guy, I need him back in here, and going that direction. And because from that point forward, he was good, causing no trouble, and actually did a fantastic job, his career had a full renaissance and resurgence, right? Jonathan Majors, as far as this go, and the other thing, some people like to make the argument, well, on the flip side of defending Robert Downey Jr., well, he didn't hurt anybody. Well, that's not true. By being on drugs the way that he was, one, you're screwing up all sorts of productions and things like that by you not being able to show up to work or being too effed up to be able to do your lines or do your part or everything like that. But he also at one point was arrested for breaking into somebody else's house and passing out in a bed, scaring apparently kids and things like that. So no, he did affect other people. It wasn't just him poisoning his body and things like that. So miss me with all of that. But again, I just think based off of how everything went with Jonathan Majors, you got the conviction, you have served the time that was asked of you from the legal system. I just don't think do it right away. I think really give people time. Like no matter what, you hear his name, it'll trigger one way or the other. People are going to think about what he's done. But I think the further away you are from it, and we've really just seen that he is nowhere near that person whatsoever, then by all means, give him an opportunity to make up for himself. I think the big thing above all else, I don't think any of us is ever particularly proud of what would consider our worst moment or our worst day or anything else like that. Some things you can come back from and some things you can't. Again, based off of the evidence of how all of this played out and whatnot, then I think truthfully, if we see no signs of him being any sort of person that, that was put forth with all of this and he really has changed, then giving him the opportunity to redeem himself, I think is acceptable. But that's me. I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments if you're on the same page. If you're like, I don't want to see Jonathan Majors at all ever again. I don't want to see Kang anymore. All of that. You let me know what you are feeling on that. Let's check in real quick with the chat and see what everybody's saying. People said I still see a couple things about looking good, about covering up my Mavs gear. Quad face. Just take the time. Yep, take the time. I'm assuming that's for the Spider-Man story and things like that. Yeah. Again, just take your time with everything, and that's how you're going to get a good story. And then I think same thing. Take your time with Jonathan Majors. If you're going to do that, just maybe not right away. Give it some time. Maybe wait until you wrap up this slate of stuff. So Doomsday and Secret Wars, just because, or maybe he's involved in Secret Wars to cut, like you said, to wrap up a storyline or something like that. Who knows? We'll see what they decide to do. All right, let's go on to some Wakanda news. That's what's up. We've got two stories for you. The first of which, there is the rumor that Black Panther 3 is going to lean into horror and supernatural elements. Josh Wilding from Comic Book Movie reporting. Now, much has been said about Marvel Studios' plans for T'Challa in recent weeks. Social media scoopers appear to agree the role will be recast, likely for the next Avengers movies, and almost certainly for Ryan Coogler's Black Panther 3. The trades, meanwhile, have yet to chime in. While the multiverse opens the door to a new T'Challa being plucked from another reality, all signs still point to a young T'Challa 2 being aged up post-Secret Wars to pick up where his father left off. Cosmic Circle's Alex Perez has shared some inside intel of his own today, confirming that he's also heard Saint, I think it's Saint, will take over the mantle in Black Panther 3. He also acknowledges that this doesn't eliminate the possibility of other Black Panther variants showing up in the Avengers films beforehand. Interestingly, Perez adds, I've heard that compared to the previous films, Ryan Coogler is interested in leaning into a more horror supernatural thriller tone for this film. That lines up with what we've recently heard about the sequel's villain and points to the franchise getting a new look and feel to go with its next lead. Black Panther Wakanda Forever was a hit, but never quite felt different enough considering Shuri stepped into T'Challa's role. Of course, somewhat contradicting this and everything else we've heard about Black Panther 3 are comments from executive producer Nate Moore. The truth is, there's no truth to those rumors, he said in an interview we shared earlier today. Never say never to anything. We haven't really had a lot of creative conversations with Ryan Coogler yet because he's finishing his film Sinners, which comes out this year. We'll get into it later this year, but everything you read online is not true. If for no other reason, then we just haven't started working on it. He added, we don't know what the story is. We couldn't tell you whether or not we're open to recasting. It certainly wasn't our instinct for Wakanda Forever. I'll never say never to anything, but it's too early to talk about any of that stuff. We have to figure out what the story is going to be. Now, while Marvel Studios is likely exploring its options when it comes to T'Challa's future on screen, it's clearly early days and probably best to take anything we hear with a pinch of salt for the time being. Tisha writes, Shuri is still most likely to possibility for the Black Panther we'll see in the Avengers movies, and beyond that, it'll boil down to just how much the MCU changes after Secret Wars credits roll. Now, while, Black Panther doesn't have a release date, though Denzel Washington has been confirmed as the movie's first cast member. Speaking of Denzel, a recent rumor is potentially shedding some light on who the Oscar winner will play. Talking to Screen Rant about Captain America Brave New World, Marvel Studios executive Nate Moore shared an update where things stand with Washington's highly anticipated MCU debut. While it sounds like Coogler and Washington have talked, it's clearly still early days for the threequel at Marvel Studios if Moore's comments are any indication. As we said before, it's too early to say, but obviously if an actor of the caliber of Denzel Washington wants in, we're going to figure out a way to make that happen, Moore concluded. He may not have signed on the dotted line, but it was during Gladiator 2's press tour that he confirmed he'll star in Black Panther 3. Movie hasn't been officially announced at the time, though that didn't stop him from spilling the beans. For me, it's about the filmmaker, especially at this point in my career. The icon said, I'm only interested in working with the best. I don't know how many more films I'm going to make. Probably not that many. I want to do things I haven't done. Ryan Coogler's writing a part for me in the next Black Panther. I'm sure y'all remember I talked about this. He later admitted that he had spoken out of turn, quickly made things right with Coogler. Ryan's a genius. I called him and apologized for talking about the movie, and right there sitting with him was his beautiful wife. He's still Ryan, humble and full of ideas. Whatever he writes, I'll read. Rumors continue to swirl about plans to recast T'Challa, with the prevailing theory that Toussaint will pick up. We just talked about that. And again, Washington, for those that didn't know, had a history with the late Chadwick Boseman. When Felicia Rashad was mentoring him while teaching at Howard University, Boseman was accepted in the British American Drama Academy's Midsummer program, but he couldn't afford to take part. She made a call to Denzel, and Denzel agreed to fit the bill. So he did have a very close relationship with Chadwick. All right. So a lot of stuff, man. If we're going to go with the horror supernatural route, and I'm actually kind of here for that, then I think what you're probably looking at is the King of the Dead storyline with T'Challa, where T'Challa dies and then he kind of comes back and he's able to communicate because of the ancestral plane and everything. He's able to communicate and control the dead to a certain extent. I think that'd actually be pretty cool. And that might even explain some stuff if maybe when he comes back, if you don't want to go the full variant route, by being revived, I look a little different. My body wasn't the same. There's a number of ways you could handle that one way or the other. I still don't mind the idea of Toussaint. I don't love the idea of let's just quickly age him up and whatever it is. Though it could be interesting if you had a situation where maybe because Toussaint it has the Black Panther legacy in him or something, you could do something along the lines of like he had to be the one to like we discussed somebody during Capes and Cows. I cannot remember which audience member it was, had a theory that during Endgame, when they were trying to figure out time travel, they were talking about how instead of Paul Rudd's character, why am I forgetting his name? Scott. Jesus. Instead of Scott moving through time was moving through Scott, and that's why he became a baby at one point, and that's why he became an old man at one point. So this idea that maybe you could do the same thing to Cap and age him back to regular age if he's going to come back to the series at all. Though right now Chris Evans says that he isn't. Who knows? Everybody's going to kind of lie until official things are put out, right? Maybe there's something along the lines of Toussaint has to be the one to somehow help Cap do that, and then in the process you end up with Cap gets younger and Toussaint gets older, and then we get whoever our adult actor who's going to play him can take over from there. I guess that's a possibility. Obviously variants are a possibility. I'm so enamored with the son of T'Challa and Storm, who essentially is the Black Panther, but a mutant Black Panther. So he has the ability, I don't think he can control weather straight up, but he has inherited some of like his mother's electrokinesis and is able to like use that while also having all of his Black Panther abilities from the heart-shaped herb and his heritage and all that, which is just fucking crazy. That's like one of the most OP characters you could possibly have. Like the speed, skill, and training and healing abilities and all that kind of stuff of a panther, but then you're partial weather witch, essentially, like goddess or god, I guess, of weather, like his mother. That would be nuts. And I would love to see that character, but we got to introduce the X-Men first, and Storm has to be a thing, and Storm has to fall in love with T'Challa, and they got to get together, and then get divorced, and then get back together, and all that shit. That's a lot of shit going on, so we got to deal with this child of T'Challa first. So it'll be interesting to see the route that they ultimately go. Other than that, I think it's very interesting with Denzel. He probably, I think, is good because the main thing they said is he will be a canon character if he is involved. I am hoping that like whatever character they end up ultimately picking, I don't have anybody directly off of my mind that would work. That we're getting the kind of iconic Training Day, Lorenzo, like crazy motherfucker. Like that is what I want out of Denzel. If you're gonna bring an actor of that caliber, we're talking about he will be the next person from a Marvel movie who ends up with an Oscar nomination, maybe even a win. But I'm very, very curious to see what we ultimately end up doing with Denzel and with the genre. And I'm curious what you think. What would you like to see as far as who Denzel would potentially play, how you want them to handle T'Challa, and what do you think of the idea of going horror supernatural? Again, King of the Dead, King of the Damned, I think would be a great storyline for them to go with. Okay, that's all of the fun stories for the most part. Now we got to get a little bit more serious with another edition of Diddy or Didn't He? All right, so I've actually got 3 different lawsuits that have been filed against Diddy now. These are 3 additional new lawsuits. I'm going to go ahead and just give kind of like a trigger warning to anybody because we're going to be talking about sexual assault and rape and various things here. So if you need to turn the volume down, if you need to take a step away, all that kind of stuff, I'll obviously have the assets here so you can see what we're talking about. This first one was a male singer that was assaulted. Diddy's latest accuser says his career opportunity of a lifetime turned into a horrific night where he was drugged and sexually assaulted by Diddy, TMZ has learned. An anonymous man says he was an up-and-coming rapper-singer in 2015 when he landed a nightclub gig in LA, and Diddy showed up with his entourage and a ton of Ciroc bottles for the crowd. According to a lawsuit filed on Monday by attorney Tony Busby, the John Doe accuser says one of Diddy's associates told him if he did well, Diddy would talk to him about possibly signing with Bad Boy Records. After his performance, he claims he was invited to a VIP section with Diddy and other well-known artists, many of whom were taking drugs. While they were partying, he claims someone handed him a drink, which Diddy himself had sent over. But soon after drinking it, he quickly felt lightheaded and blacked out. He recalls seeing Diddy and company having group sex around him as he drifted in and out of consciousness. In the suit, the accuser includes a photo of a container smaller than a pen, which he claims Diddy used to dose drinks with GHB, best known as the date rape drug. At some point, he says he woke up to Diddy's grabbing his genitals and believes the mogul was performing oral sex on him. The accuser says he tried to fight back, but Diddy threatened to ruin his career. He finally made his escape when Diddy demanded to have sex with the woman in the room, but instead the accuser pretended he needed to go to the bathroom and then he bolted. He's suing Diddy and Bad Boy Entertainment for sexual battery and conspiracy. Diddy's attorneys tell TMZ, as they have for months, Mr. Combs cannot respond to every new publicity stunt, even in response to claims that are factually ridiculous and demonstrably false. Mr. Combs and his legal team have full confidence in facts and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. Whew, okay, the next story. A male sex worker, a male adult worker, says that Diddy forced this male adult entertainer to coat his body with baby oil before sexually assaulting him. And the guy says the substance made him incapacitated, at least according to a new lawsuit. The Bad Boy Records founder is being sued by a John Doe who claims Diddy trapped him in a vortex of exploitation and fear, subjecting him to a relentless pattern of drugging, sexual assaults, death threats, clandestine recording, blackmail, and psychological manipulation. According to the lawsuit obtained by TMZ, the guy claims he first met Diddy in 2007 when he was working as an adult entertainer in Las Vegas. He says Diddy would hire him through an agency to dance and strip, but claims their encounters went off the rails sexually once Diddy introduced baby oil. The man claims he applied the baby oil and he would become sleepy, disoriented, confused, exhausted, drowsy, weak, sluggish, and numb, to the point where he says he unwittingly complied with Diddy's demands and was essentially coerced into sex acts. In several encounters, the man claims Diddy squirted large amounts of baby oil onto his skin, coating his body so heavily the substance dripped off. Among the sex acts Diddy allegedly coerced him into performing in a drowsy and confused state was manual stimulation, intercourse with Diddy's female companions, and ejaculation on the woman's body or mouth. The guy claims Diddy would often closely monitor to ensue he was having sex with the woman, but then by putting his face next to their genitals. He also claims Diddy once rubbed a man's excretion on a woman's body and then licked it off. In the docs, the man says he always believed he would be able to resist any sexual advances going into the encounters, but says he found himself unable to do so once Diddy applied the baby oil to his body. He claims Diddy led him on for years with empty promises of making him a music star and blackmailed him with videos of their trysts. He says he finally worked up the courage to file a lawsuit after Cassie sued Diddy and the mogul was arrested. Attorney Lisa Bloom, who is repping the John Doe, tells TMZ, "I'm very proud to represent my brave client in this new case. We will not rest until we get justice for him." Diddy's denying the claims in a statement via his legal team. He says he never sexually assaulted anyone. Whew, Jesus. Okay, and the last story. This is two women allege that they were assaulted by Diddy at Trump's New York hotel. Former bottle service attendant has just filed a lawsuit against Diddy, claiming she was assaulted by a club promoter at Diddy's direction and says it went down at the Trump hotel. The woman who filed suit anonymously as Jane Doe claims in the late 90s she attended an event hosted by Diddy at the Limelight nightclub in New York City. She says the club had 5 floors and 2 floors were reserved for sex parties. She says nothing happened to her at Limelight, but she and a friend made their way to the Trump Hotel in Midtown. She claims she never wanted to go, but Combs made it clear that they did not have a choice. The woman says she and her friend were taken to a penthouse suite along with Combs and several other men. She claims they were held hostage in the room, drugged, and forced to participate in group sex. Among other things, she says Combs directed a club promoter to assault her while he watched. A second lawsuit was just filed by another woman, also a Jane Doe, claiming she was sexually assaulted twice, first by Diddy and then by others at his command. It appears this is the friend of the first woman who filed the suit today, because this Jane Doe also says she and a friend were at the Limelight and ended up at the Trump Hotel. She claims while in the penthouse she was drugged and a security guard assaulted her as Diddy watched. She also mentions group sex. Both lawsuits were filed by Tony Busby, who has filed numerous cases against Diddy, so it seems the two women were together during the alleged assaults. As for the first woman, she also says in 1997 she went to a party at Combs' house in the Hamptons after a friend told her she could earn $2,000 as a bottle service attendant. She claims she was drugged and assaulted by Combs' associate at Combs' direction. She also says she recalls seeing Combs fully naked at one point and witnessing another man sodomizing him. Mr. Combs' legal team tells TMZ, as we've said before, this is the same statement. Mr. Combs cannot respond to every single lawsuit and every new publicity stunt, even in response to claims that are factually ridiculous or demonstrably false. They continue to say that his legal team, the truth in court, the truth will prevail, and Mr. Combs never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, man, woman, adult, or minor. Okay, good Lord. So a lot of people ask me, they go, "Hey man, why do you read all of these lawsuits? Why do you put all that out there?" And it's the same thing that I've said from jump. I'm going to keep following these stories. I'm going to keep putting them out there. Obviously, justice needs to be done one way or the other, but they're in the news. I don't want this stuff to get buried because I think it's very important to talk about all of the stuff that's happened. And now, mind you, again, are there going to potentially be bad faith actors that are going to get in here and whatnot? Sure. That just by the odds of how many lawsuits are coming out, there are probably going to be one or two that are not great. But it is very clear. Obviously, it's all alleged. It is very clear. with the amount of evidence of stuff that was taken, Cassie's original lawsuit, all the stories that have gone around Hollywood for years. There's a litany of reasons why it is very clear that Diddy did something. All right. He probably did a vast majority of it. Again, all alleged. Let's get it real clear. This is all alleged. But as these stories come out, these MOs remain the same as all of this is happening. And people have said this has been decades of abuse by this man to get to where he's going. Even in how he apparently kind of started his career, a lot of stuff came out about how Diddy was pretty shady about all of that. And allegedly, coercing executives by drugging them and then having blackmail on them and then being like, you're going to give me X, Y, and Z. And that's kind of how he did it, essentially moving in a very like kind of mob boss mentality, just, more the less Marcellus Wallace and more like Zed and them, from Pulp Fiction, if you know what I'm talking about. I think the part that, and I've said this before, I think the part that sucks more than anything, it's this idea of Diddy was really kind of at the top of the mountain of stuff that people aim for, as far as the music industry, about being a mogul, all that kind of stuff. And so as this gets worse and worse, it's just one of those things where it breaks your heart to know that, one, he could be this much of a monster, and two, that again, I can only explain as a black person, it's rough to see someone meet so much success, but it sounds like really just be a horrible, horrible person. And so then you feel like, if you looked up to that person for any reason, that you can't anymore. As a matter of fact, there's a sketch that I wrote and we shot, and I haven't released it. I finally finished editing it after years later, but I haven't released it because once Diddy got arrested, I had a joke in there about a dude, irony of all ironies, trying to make it as a rapper, and Diddy came to one of his shows, and the fact that Diddy's gonna sign me, it hits completely different now. Like, now the sketch isn't funny because of the original premise of this dude having an intervention for being a rapper. It now feels off kilter that this might have happened. Now, someone had suggested I should still put it out, and if I need to make a tweak to the edit, maybe every time the word Diddy is said, have it be like bleeped out, and even give a disclaimer at the start of the sketch and be like, look, this was written on this year and this was filmed on this year. For various reasons, it did not get finished until the last year or so, and obviously things are very different now. So please understand that this was written before we found out that Diddy is an actual bad boy for life. I might do that because it was, a lot of people put in, good time to make that sketch happen in the first place, and I've owed them that sketch for a minute. But I don't know, man. Again, I'm going to keep reporting on what's going on with Diddy because I think people need to know. There has been more stuff breaking about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I just didn't want to cover both of those in one show, so we'll revisit that a little bit later because there's like a new lawsuit coming out from the New York Times against her and a couple other things, man. So either way, let me know what you think about any of these lawsuits with Diddy whatsoever. If you've heard another story that hasn't gotten out there, things like that, let me know down in the comments. And again, if you're watching this on the replay or as a clip out, you can check out the Diddy or Didn't He playlist there that has all of the ones that we've done over the course of all of this happening. So you can check all of that out. All right, with that, let's get on to our final story of the evening. Fox and the NFL are trying to decide if whether or not Kendrick Lamar can perform Not Like Us at the Super Bowl. This is reported from TMZ. By the way, those last Diddy stories were all TMZ too. Kendrick Lamar is about to find out if his smash hit Not Like Us is as popular with NFL and network lawyers and execs as it is with the public. And his Super Bowl halftime show hangs in the balance. It's a big day down in the Big Easy as Kendrick's setlist is expected to be handed off to the NFL and Fox honchos gathered in New Orleans for the game. Wednesday is typically the day the halftime show performers pull back the curtain for the league and reveal the songs they're going to perform. But this year's there's extra attention on Kendrick's plans because of Not Like Us and the defamation lawsuit Drake filed against Universal Music Group over the diss track, which, as we all know, flat out calls Drake a certified foul. a PDF, if as people are saying on the internet now. So here's what usually goes down. Once the execs get the set list, they call in the lawyers who pore over the lyrics to make sure there's nothing that'll get the league or the network in trouble with the FCC. And there's no doubt Kendrick is doing the song. Our sources connected to him, the network, and the league all confirm that. What the lawyers have to decide is whether to broadcast the lyrics that allegedly defame Drake and risk a potential lawsuit. Fun fact, there are not one, but two censors on game day. The NFL has an official who can bleep out content, and then Fox has a backup. Remember, it's all broadcast on a 5-second delay just in case. Now, it's worth noting is what happened Sunday when K-Dot won Record of the Year at the Grammys. CBS opted to play the PDF portion of the song as he walked on stage, and the whole crowd at Staples Center, I refuse to call it crypto, loudly sang the iconic A minor line. Imagine that now with more than 80,000 people Sunday in the Superdome. We're told there will be Thursday rehearsal for Kendrick, SZA, and any other guests, which is standard ops for Super Bowl week. Question is, will the censors be practicing their moves too? Bro, can you imagine? It was already ridiculous having the, 20,000 or however many can fit into Staples screaming out A minor. Can you imagine? You've already had the world in individual pockets. 80,000 people at the Super Bowl, let alone the world watching the Super Bowl at the same time screaming out, A minor. Oh my God. He a fan. Freaky ass, he is 69 God. Like just oh my God. I'm hearing it in my mind's eye, and I am laughing incessantly at the idea of that happening, man. It'll be really interesting to see what the NFL and Fox does, especially when you consider there were some BS, legislators in Louisiana trying to demand that Kendrick Lamar not be able to perform and saying that, the last few Super Bowl performances weren't family friendly and we don't need all this hip hop. Went at J-Lo and Shakira saying they were too sexual, and, that Rihanna grabbed her crotch at one point, and all this stuff that they were going on about. So I am not surprised that they're all of a sudden freaking out because, another story tied to the Super Bowl, you had that the end racism thing that they've had at the end of the end of the end zones will not be present at the Super Bowl. Apparently a particular Cheeto and Chief will be present at the Super Bowl as a guest of the Benson family, the owners of the Saints. Again, for the most part, I'm not afraid to talk about my political machinations, but I try and keep it out of this show, and I do plan on doing a political show later at a different point. But long story short, I think all of this is all directly tied together in how this is all going. A lot has changed in 2-3 weeks, and I think that is affecting all different points of life, including even how the NFL is moving that quickly, because you've seen a lot of companies get in lockstep now because they're afraid of retaliation and things like that. So I would not be surprised if something happens one way or the other, either for fear of a lawsuit from Drake, since he's clearly on his Karen warpath to throw lawsuits out there, or that they just don't want to deal with any sort of backlash or anything like that if politicians really do get involved one way or the other. I think all of that is a distinct possibility one way or the other. But I want to know what you think. Are you trying to sit out here and hear that sweet chin music and not pass the ox? Or are you like, nah, man, you can skip the song. I don't need to hear it, whatever. I think you're crazy if you don't want to hear it at the Super Bowl, but I get it if you're like, look, I'm over it, or better safe than sorry. Let me know what you think down in the comments, man. All right, before we get out of here, let's go and see if we had any questions in the Streamlabs or the Super Chats, which, again, let me go ahead and throw that to the chat. So let's see if this works. Hasn't worked in the past. There we go. So yes, if you would like to throw in any other questions, you can go to streamlabs.com/swaggyblerd/tip. That link is in the chat right now. Or you can throw in a super chat. And I do see I have one from Can You Dig It, who donated. Thank you so much for that. And the question that he asked, favorite Chappelle Show sketch? It would be reparations for me. That is a great question. I would say, If not Black Bush, which is fucking hysterical. We can't be trusting random niggas with things that just we don't know what he has. Like Jamie Foxx is the Black Tony Blair. All of that whole sketch. M-A-R-S, Mars, bitches. Red Rocks. Like, that sketch fucking gets me all the time. Obviously, Rick James and Prince are fantastic. The racial draft is amazing. Goodbye, fried rice. Hello, fried chicken. Those are all in my top Chappelle Show sketches. From the lost episodes, the sleeper, the Tupac new song. Like, Tupac's been dead, but his new song is talking about real life things happening right now. All of that shit. Absolutely hysterical, man. Like, he was at the peak of his powers a lot, in my opinion, during that show. And he's still, like, is very, very talented, obviously very controversial over the last couple of years, but Chappelle Show remains maybe the best sketch show of all time. Very short-lived, but absolutely fucking fantastic. So thank you so much for the question. Can you dig it? And it looks like that is the only one for today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, man. I want to say thank you so much to everybody that was rocking with me today, that was here watching the show. Again, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and throw a thumbs up on the video. I would greatly appreciate it. And get in those comments, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about any and everything that you heard today about Black Panther, about Miles Morales, about Diddy, about Kendrick. And then what was the last story? I already forgot. It doesn't matter. Get in there and let me know what you think about any and all of this. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Please be sure to check out some of the other content that I got going on the channel. You can find something sitting right here. And other than that, keep an eye out early tomorrow morning for another video from me. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all stay safe, man, and I'll see y'all on the flip, bruh. Peace. Where that exit button?